Hello and welcome to my channel, everybody. I've been thinking that I wanted to do the 25 bookish facts about me tag, so here we go. So these are in absolutely no particular order other than this is the order that they came to me. I'm pretty much split equally between Kindle, so ebooks, audiobooks and physical books. I don't really have a preference between them. There are some that are more convenient for certain things, so for example when I'm traveling I try to take my Kindle and some audiobooks. I really love the feel and the smell and the touch of a physical book, or when I'm ill I might prefer listening to an audiobook. So it just really depends on the situation. Also sometimes some forms of books are cheaper, or sometimes I find audiobooks on my local library. I'm actually a pretty slow reader, I've been told, so I think it takes me about 2 minutes to read a normal, what's that, A5 size page. But I just read a lot. Also, whenever I listen to an audiobook, I tend to speed that up, so that kind of makes me feel like I'm a fast reader because I tend to listen to it at about 1.4, 1.6 kind of the speed. Number 3 is that I actually don't tend to read more than about 30 minutes at a time, unless it's an audiobook. I just can't concentrate for that long, so I might read for 30 minutes, get up, do some other random things, come back to it, read for another 20 minutes or so, sometimes even just switching books. So yeah, I find it really hard to concentrate on one book for a long period of time. I don't know. Maybe that's just weird. I don't know. Number 4 is that I always read more than one book at a time. I tend to have somewhere around 3+ books on the go at any one moment. Number 5 is that I tend to do most of my reading at night in bed, so before I fall asleep. And I've actually come to the point now where it's really hard for me to fall asleep if I haven't read at least for a few minutes beforehand. The 6th bookish fact about me is that I got my first library card when I was around 5 years old in a northern German town where we were on holiday, which actually now really surprises me because I didn't realize that you could get library cards in the cities that if you didn't live in that city. So, but yeah, that was my very first library card at age 5 and I loved going to the library there. Number 7, so when I was little there used to be this book bus, it was called, that would come around through all the different parts of the city that I lived in, and you could go in and get out the books. It was basically like a bus library kind of thing. And I remember that the people on that bus actually knew my name and they'd actually have books that they'd be like, oh Steph, you might like this book or something like that. And it was really lovely to feel so connected to these people that, you know, basically I saw every week, because I kind of used to go, I think it used to come around Wednesdays to the place that I lived in, so every Wednesday I'd have to go rush for that book bus. Oh, and I remember actually at one point I almost forgot to return my books, and I think so it first stopped near where I lived and then it stopped a little bit farther away, and I remember racing the bus with my bike to still be able to return that book. So don't return your books late. Bookish fact number 8 is that when we were moving house to the place that we live in now, my husband actually told me that I was not allowed to buy any more books because obviously moving house you have a lot of crates and all that. It's very heavy to lift, lots of boxes full of books. So he said I was not allowed to buy any more books, and for every book, physical books that is, and for every new physical book that I was buying I had to give away 2 of the books that I already owned, which I love books, I don't want to give them away, obviously, so I stuck with it and I did not buy any physical books for, I don't know, maybe half a year or so, I reckon. So yes, if I have to, I can just not buy books. I mean, I still bought ebooks and I had my library card and all that, but you know, still an achievement, right? Bookish fact number 9 is that until I was around 14 or 15 years old, I only really read books in German, and I think maybe 1 or 2 in French, which is actually my first foreign language. And I think the very first book that I read in English must have been The Catcher in the Rye, which my English teacher gave me and a friend to try out and, you know, get our teeth stuck in, see how well we were dealing with English books. Number 10. I have read pretty much all of Jodi Picoult's books, and there's actually a really funny story where at one point I messaged her on her website and I asked her if she might be coming around England anytime soon on a book tour or something like that because I'd love to see her. And she replied to me saying that yes, actually, you know, in actual fact she was about to come to a city very near where I was living, and so obviously I booked my tickets, I booked my train tickets straight away, and I remember I had a backpack full of her books that I took to that reading that she was doing. Like, she was presenting her newest book, And I remember standing there afterwards and asking if she would sign a copy for me. And then I got my backpack and said, "Can you also sign all of these books over there, please?" Which she very kindly did. So I have now got, I reckon, I don't know, maybe 12 books of hers that are all signed. So yes, I really like her books. I like how they always deal with very difficult moral issues, and I can't wait. Her next book just came out, so yes, I'll be talking about that soon, I believe. I'm sure I'll be talking about it soon. Number 11, getting a Kindle really changed the way that I was reading because it allowed me to always carry a book around with me. So yes, obviously when I was little and I'd have my school backpack and things, I remember carrying, for example, my Harry Potter books around with me. But it does get very heavy, especially if you kind of are like me and you can't always decide which book you might want to read. And so you kind of have these 2 or 3 books that you kind of think, well, I might want to read this at some point, so I better take it with me. And my back and my shoulders were very much happy when I finally got a Kindle and actually just could carry it around with me without having to lug around this heavy bag full of books. Bookish fact number 12 is that my commute to high school used to be about 45 minutes each way, which sounds like a lot to me now, actually, that I think about it. But I really didn't mind it because it allowed me an hour and a half of reading time every single day. Number 13. I only very recently read Harry Potter for the first time in English. So I read it in German, obviously, when I was little, but then I read books 5 onwards in English because that's when I moved to England. But books 1 to 4 I had never read in English. So it was really interesting actually reading it in the original language and going, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense now. And actually also, so I have read, obviously I've read 1 to 4 in German and then 5 to 7 in English. I have also read 1 in Spanish. I don't massively like 2, as I kind of said already in my Finally Fall video. So I tend to skip that. But then 3 I've started listening to in French, and I actually got myself book 1 and book 3 in Chinese. Number 14 is that I really don't care a lot about romance and novels. I will read them if it happens, but it's not something I would seek out. However, the most beautiful relationship that I think I've ever read is between Henry and Claire in The Time Traveler's Wife, which I absolutely adore. I think they're so cute together and I just love them. Number 15 is that I once gave The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to a friend as a gift, wrapped in a towel. Bookish fact number 16 is that I Bookish fact number 16 is that I very rarely reread books, and every time that I do, I think I really should do this more often because there are so many little things that I don't notice the first time I read something. But then I always think to myself that, oh, I probably know that story already and I'll be really bored reading it again, which I totally know isn't true, but somehow it still prevents me from picking up a book a second time. But then every time that I do, I really love it. So yeah, I don't know. But there are so many new books. So that's the difficult thing, isn't it? There are so many books and so little time. So I don't know. If you have any tips about rereading books, please let me know in the comments. Number 17 is that I cannot imagine going away for a night or more and not having a book with me. That just sounds, no, not possible. Number 18 is that I'm not afraid to crack the spine or even dog ear the books. Ooh. Controversial opinion right here. But I just don't mind showing that I've engaged with a book. So to me, it's just a sign to show that I loved this book so much that I took it with me everywhere and I didn't even have a bookmark, or I needed to open it up properly or something like that. So, sorry. Number 19 is that whenever I go traveling and I need a little place to retreat to and to kind of calm down and find back to myself, especially if it's a scary and unfamiliar environment, is that I'll go into a bookshop, even if I don't understand the language of the books. And on a similar note, number 20 is that my all-time favorite bookshop, I think, has to be Science Fiction Bokhandeln, I think that's how you pronounce it, in Stockholm, Sweden, where I went just over a year ago with my mum when we went on a little trip to Sweden. And it's basically as if someone had taken all my favorite books, all the books I want to read, and a bunch of books that I didn't know about but that sound really amazing, and put them all into one bookshop and I couldn't take any with me because I didn't have enough cash, and I also only had hand luggage, I think. So it was really amazing, and I actually kind of considered at one point just booking a flight to Sweden just to go to that bookshop. So yes, next trip to Sweden I will need to bring an extra suitcase, I think. Bookish fact number 21 is that, yes, I'm sorry, I do judge books by their cover. And number 22 is that I also judge them by their Goodreads rating, and I tend to avoid books that have ratings lower than around 3.6, 3.7, which, sorry, feeling kind of judgmental here. Bookish fact number 23 is that I actually really struggle to pinpoint what exactly my favourite genres are. So I definitely always like a nice dystopian novel. I also generally like sci-fi, more on that in a second, and I really enjoy books about the Second World War and that kind of period in time. But other than that, I just love to read. I also really love non-fiction, so yeah, I tend to read whatever I can get my hands on pretty much, if it sounds interesting at all. Number 24 is that having a PhD in astrophysics has kind of made it difficult for me sometimes to really like certain sci-fi books, because unfortunately I can't separate the story from the science in there, and if the science is really off, it really puts me off reading it, and I can't really get into that suspension of disbelief kind of thing. And I've unfortunately had the experience twice now where I've wanted to really love a book and I just couldn't read it because the science in there was so wrong. So now whenever I want to read a sci-fi book, I kind of first try to read some reviews and see if it's, you know, scientifically and physically sound, which I don't know, it's just one of those hazards, I guess, that comes with having a, you know, background in physics. So, And lastly, bookish fact number 25 is that I very rarely actually cry when I read a book. But some of the books that have made me cry were Flowers for Algernon, Of Mice and Men, A Monster Calls, The Book Thief, All the Light We Cannot See, and When Elephants Fly. Alright, that's all my 25 bookish facts about me. Let me know in the comments below if any of those have surprised you. Until next time, see you!
Ooh.